We're being joined on the program by Mr. Kolawole Johnson. He's a public affairs, public policy analyst. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening.
Given the fact that people have died in Borno State, I may have to just have your take on that quickly before we go to other issues on the program, which is the concern about this resurgence of bombing, which I actually showed Senator Shehu Sani. Your quick take on it, sir.
It's sad, and well, it's sad. I don't think I want to speak much on that now. It's it's sad because we're a few weeks ago we warned and we said we shouldn't sleep. We should open our eyes and ensure that the nation is secured. I remember when I spoke, I think I spoke to one international television station, and we were talking on the Niger crisis, and I particularly said Nigeria should guard against threat along that border, knowing well that many of those insurgents, the terrorists, will be driven into the country. So I think it's again another call for us to be proactive. You don't wait until things happen. We're very poor at that. We don't resolve issues when they are at the stage of issues. We wait for them to dovetail to crisis, and then we start scampering for safety. I think it should be a call on the government, on the agencies, to please ensure that we are able to identify ahead and take steps ahead before they come on us.
Are you worried about the states of our nation?
Yes, I'm worried. I mean, you can't be a Nigerian and not be worried about the state of the nation. I mean, you should be worried, especially when we know that. See, I keep talking about the fact that there were warnings before now. Every single thing you see happening, from the economy to security, we warned. I remember 2015, 2016, 2017, we were taking on the issue of insecurity. Then I was saying that what we were ignoring in Northwest then, and later Benue. I remember then, when we were fighting on the Benue crisis, that there were officials in the government then who were like saying no manner of things against us, that we were being sponsored. And the fact is, that we won. That what was happening will soon become a national cake if we refuse to address it. Now, we also warned then that we may be having food crisis on our hands in a few years to come. Because Benue, of course, the food basket of the nation. Go look at these axes, those states with these peculiar security issues. Many of those states ought to be contributing to the national food basket, but unfortunately, those who should be producing the food are lavishing in IDP camps. And you should be worried because we saw the handwritings on the wall and we didn't do anything. Today we complain about the economy. The years were when we were spending everything we had. We were borrowing with all our fingers. We didn't know that we would get to this point today. So I'm worried because a lot of times these things are seen ahead, but we refuse to take steps.
So I want you to, since we're talking with dovetail into the economy, I want you to speak to an issue that came up at NET. The president had made some approvals, almost to the tune of ₦1 trillion, what they call the, I think, National Construction and Household Support Program. 50,000 naira grants to 100,000 families for 3 months, and then 155 billion, yeah, for assorted foods. That's what it's called. 10 billion for CNG buses in 36 states and the FCT. I could go on and on. There were other interventions in terms of construction in different parts of the country. Leaving out the construction part, let's talk about the intervention in terms of relief that the government is providing for people. Given what had played out with the humanitarian ministry and the corruption allegedly that we've seen play out in some of this sector, How far-reaching do you think this can be to cushion the impact of what is going on? Because the president says he will try his best, pending when things change, these interventions will come.
Jeff, the president, of course, will be worried about the state of the nation, knowing well that the people are disgruntled and the complaint is at the peak at this moment. He's probably looking for ways, not just probably, he's looking for ways to ensure that he's able to cushion the effect. And whatever this is termed, the construction or whatever. And we're told that it's going to affect agriculture and the construction industry. If we look at the last 3 years, the agricultural sector has been contributing, I think, about between 23–24% to the national GDP. Industry also has been contributing between 30–31% from 2020, 2021, 2022. I think in 2020, agriculture did about 23% of thereabout. Same thing with 2021, and by 2022 it did around 3.7. The same with industry. So if you look at sectors that have been contributing about 54% to our national GDP year in, year out, of course we should focus attention on them. Albeit, how do we focus that attention? I'll take you back to last year when the president was, setting up his cabinet. I was asked in your studios that where should we focus our attention more of these ministries? And I mentioned two. I said security, and not just the common one, economic insecurity. And I, explained this. I said, you come to the north, some assets, people are mining away Nigeria resources, and they are creating crisis along these areas so they can continue with that trade. You go to the part of the south and you understand what pipeline vandalization is doing to the economy. And you go to many areas in the country, people will plant in their farms, but some folks will get there with their cows and run over them. We have this insecurity across board that we need to address. Now, if we are going to focus on agriculture, no matter what we create to work for us, if you don't take care of the threat, of the risk around the agricultural, production line, I think we may not be achieving as much as we should. And it is so sad today that the food crisis is on us. Look at what they sell a tuber of yam today. We are not importing that. That is not answerable to dollar. Look at what they sell tomato and all of these items. Is it that we can't grow them? Now, if you have them in surplus, certainly you can have the price at what it is today. The market will always respond, to equilibrium. If you have demand, outstripping supply, of course, you will have the price tilting, towards that side. But if you have enough supply, we are not likely to have what we have today. So beyond the fact that we want to start transferring money to individuals, let me give an example. If you give an household 50,000 naira today, they would likely not do anything with that money aside from consuming, that money. And if we are to move away from consumption to production, I would rather prefer that you give them the lump sum of either 150 or 200 or 300 that they can invest in something specific. Now, some years back, we queried not just the humanitarian agency, we queried again, the cash transfer. And we asked that they should please supply us with a register. Let us know those you have given this money in each of the state. It was so bad that they said they were feeding people during COVID. And we know over time that you can't trace these monies. And unfortunately, if we don't have this money we are spending, we are borrowing. Do you know the size of Nigeria debt now as we speak? We are borrowing this money. We should be careful to ensure that
if I may butt in,
Yes.
If I may, my apologies, so that you land on your thought as well on this particular one. I know that our public debt is in the region of about 100 trillion, and it's a very difficult situation.
About 120
we're servicing
trillion.
debt.
No.
Our macroeconomic indicators are not in the best form. So my question as a build-up to that is, how far-reaching do you think this intervention will go? And do you really think it will get to the people?
Now, see, it is easier for us to sit in the public space and criticize every single move of the government. I think I rather want to maintain some decorum, to ensure that we have enough facts from this. But if we are judging from antecedent, of course, we can just conclude that this will just be another, effort in futility that may not achieve anything. But I want to give the government the benefit of doubt. If they will supply us with information, let's have the document. And we've been asking for budget performance report quarterly. Publish it. Publish, your payment, your receipt, everything that you've earned. Let's be able to appraise the government critically, and at times come up with solutions. On this, I think it will be enough to tell the government to please, don't give money to people that we can't trace. Have a register that can be verified. Let it be published. Internet is there. You don't need to spend money on the newspaper to publish. Let's have it on sites where we can go and verify those you have given this money. Else, I think it will just be another effort in futility.
We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, Mr. Johnson, I have more questions for you. I'm not sure some people can remember, but not as if I want to ask a question particularly, but I know that there was a time you were always at the chambers of the Senate. The issue of the NDDC and what played out in that particular scene and what exactly is happening after all of that drama. We'll talk about that maybe briefly before we wrap up the show. Join us again. Welcome back, Mr. Kolawole Johnson. Still with us to talk about the state of the policy and the state of the nation. We've been talking about some of the relief that the government has provided or has approved for provision and how far-reaching they can be and whether indeed it will get to the people. Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for staying with us on the program, joining us from our Abuja studio. My question before the break, or the highlight I gave before the break, I remember that NDDC drama that played out. I think that's where we got the soundbite of Honorable Minister off your mic. I don't know what has come out of that. Maybe Nigerians will want to find out after, because the reason is simple. There was a podcast, Nokoyo Konobla, who was in charge of the Special Presidential Investigation Panel on Recovery of Public Property, had made yet another statement of the bogus things that people are stolen from the Nigerian state and nothing has been done. And we keep complaining that corruption is a big problem for us. But yet we see some of this panel set up, the investigation set up, and nothing comes out of it. So my question is, how far with that investigation that was carried out with the NDDC, and are we really serious about fighting corruption as we wind down?
Jeff, let me speak beyond NDDC and be generic in approach. The FCC chairman said something, I think in Tunis some days back. He said over 88.6 billion leave the shore of Africa every single year via corruption and illicit financial flows. He also added that Nigeria, got some, success story in how we've been able to repatriate the Abacha loot. He did not add, however, that it was perhaps relooted. He also did not add how corruption has become not just endemic, but it can pass for a culture in Nigeria. Culture is a way of life. Let me give you the basic example. Today, if someone gets an employment somewhere and is offered a salary of 50,000 naira, when he gets back home, maybe he's talking to his brothers or the parents, oh, this is the salary. The first question they will ask, that is too small, but is there any way you'll be making some other money there? The moment he says yes, they'll say, oh, go and take it. Those ways are probably corruption. Now, the biggest problem you have in startup in Nigeria. Go and ask the entrepreneurs. I've set up businesses. It's corruption. People. If you close the doors against them from stealing from you, they will say, oh, that man is wicked. He doesn't want people to eat from them. From him. This thing is in our blood. Same way, when people get into government, in their entire mindset, it is time to take part of the national cake. We hardly go there for service. Now, let me be specific now, and go back to the Abacha loot that the EFCC chairman, mentioned. During the military era, of course, you saw corruption being, it was the era of institutionalization of corruption. OBJ came and attempted to bring EFCC and ICPC perhaps to fight corruption. We call them anti-corruption agencies. But at the root of that, go check what happened then. They became the instruments to fight political the political enemies of the government in power. You know what that did to our psyche and the psyche of the officials of those commissions? They also became political and they were no longer fighting corruption per se. And you look at the fabrics of the anti-corruption agency today, so much that it was described by a U.S. agency that our anti-corruption agencies are ineffective, inefficient, and by themselves lack credibility. Why? Because the people there, they are from the same society that you and I come from. And so if you want to fight corruption, and the agency themselves, of course, the chairman just sacked some people. Go see what they did in my state, in Ondo State, in hotels. The reason they were able to apprehend a few of them is that there was, of course, CCTV recording. On a normal day, they would have seized the memory card. Whatever evidence you could gather against them would have been removed. So the agencies themselves are facing credibility issue. Now let's go to the government side.
Okay.
The government side also.
Mr. Akolawole, we have if you can land in 10 seconds.
Our leadership recruitment process. Oh, shit. Okay. The leadership recruitment process is a major problem. So much that when you come for election, people pay and you vote for them. When they get there, they are not looking for service. They are not servicing you at all.
Mr.
They are looking for how to fill
We're
their
totally out of time.
It is transactional.
I must apologize. So sorry. Akolawole Johnson, Public Affairs Analyst. We're totally out of time. Thank you for coming on the program. Maybe some other time we'll explore that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.